Pulp MX Network production.
Bringing you a cheeky Brit and an American YouTube racing sensation weekly. It's the LVK More Than Moto podcast with your hosts, Lewis Phillips and Kellen Brauer.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Leatt LVK More Than Moto podcast. I am Kellen Brauer, and I'm joined today, once again, by Cade Clason. No Lewis Phillips this week. No Lewis Phillips last week. Can't even speak. Unfortunately, Big Lou right now is just got out of the hospital. He's been in the hospital for almost a week now and dealing with this illness type thing. They say it's strep throat. They say it's mono and a bunch of other things. And he's finally home now trying to rest and recover, but still going to be on the mend for a couple weeks. So may not have him with us for the next show or two, but we are very, very thankful to be joined by Mr. Cade Clason. How are you doing today, Cade?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties that we have been experiencing by bringing me into this show, but we're going to chug away.
We're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Technical difficulties is the name of the game when it comes to moto media. We've been through the gamut of it. No, for you, though, it's good to have you on the show. It comes at a really good time, too, because you just got back to race High Point this past weekend. How was the experience being back behind the gate again at Pro Motocross?
It was good. I actually had a lot of fun this weekend. I was much less stressed than I was last year. I was riding a lot better. I definitely didn't ride to my full potential. I was definitely super timid in the first moto. I kind of got overwhelmed. I started probably 15 to 20, and those dudes were just sending it, and I wasn't ready to do that pace right off the rip. And I got passed by everyone and went like all the way back to 30th, and then came back forward. So it was good though. I thought I rode good. Second moto, I had an unfortunate mechanical. One of those deep ruts in the back just reached up and yanked my whole chain guide off my swing arm. So that sucked, but nothing you can do about it. I spent the whole moto sitting in the back cheering on Eli, Mitchell, and Grant. That's all I did the whole time. Me and a flagger, dude. We had a good laugh because I was just stuck. I was so far away. I was all the way back in like the tree turn. And there's no way for me to get back without getting towed or going all the way around. And there's no gate or anything over there. So I was literally just stuck.
Well, I'm glad you had a positive attitude about it instead of sulking on your sorrows in the rain, being stuck there and having to deal with it. One quick question I wanted to ask you is, High Point as a racetrack, where does it rank in terms of when you're in the mid-pack battles off the start and everyone's really close together? Like, it kind of looks odd and narrow and off camber in some places. Like, how does it rank in terms of sketch factor compared to other nationals when you're in that weird mid-pack dynamic?
I don't think so. I think it's actually really good. It's super wide and you can stay next to somebody. Like you can go 3 wide on that track pretty easily. So no, I don't think it's bad. It's almost easier because when you can ride next to someone like that, it's easier for like 20th to stay closer to first. Because if there's, say, one section that is one lined, then all of a sudden, everyone has to funnel in. They can't do anything. And that helps space first out. So then everyone then they get into lappers faster.
Right. All right, well, let's get into the show, shall we? It's great to have you on board, and we're going to do the same format that we normally do here on LVK. I've got 3 topics. You've got 3 topics. You even have a fun non-moto topic I know that we're going to discuss at the end of this whole shindig. But, again, big thanks to Leatt, Racetech, Namura, and Partzilla for backing the show. We'll tell you guys more about them as we go along. All right, so I'll lead off with my first topic of the day. We'll try to spend about 7 to 10 minutes talking about it. But it's essentially this. You've obviously watched the first 3 rounds from the couch and then eventually out here at round 4 on the racetrack yourself. Has there been a big surprise to you that's jumped off the page in really either class that you didn't expect them to do as well as they have been? And it could be Jet Lawrence doing what he's doing, but is there a name that you go to immediately that you think, man, that guy's really crushing it?
If I could do one in each class, I would say Justin Cooper in the 450 class. I don't think I would have said he's going to stay with Jet and Hunter for the majority of the moto. He has ran the pace, like the real pace, almost the whole moto a bunch of times. Like this weekend, I was rewatching the moto, you'd see Jet and Hunter, and then just, 2 seconds back, there's Justin Cooper. That's really impressive. He's a couple mistakes from those guys away from winning a moto. So that's sick. I just don't think of him as that guy, but he's riding super well. He always starts like, probably 3 to 6, I would say. But I think he's done that a few times this year, that he has the speed where I would have thought there were other guys that could maybe do that at this point, 8 motos in, but I haven't really seen anybody else be able to do that besides like AP and Eli, obviously. But you would think they would be able to do it. And then the other one is Garrett. If Garrett could just start inside the top 10, I feel like he could run with Deegs. If he could start in front of Deegs, I think he could beat him. But the dude just can't get off the gate. The 2 uphill starts in a row obviously hurt him. If he can get somewhere where he can get some good hard pack and try to get a good start, or just, I almost feel like he needs to try like a different technique wise. Like, dude, go outside and start by the privateers that you can beat off the gate, beat them. Because then at least you have like outside, the top 20 all fight with each other and the bottom 20 all kind of fight with each other. But I almost feel like that's why Eli goes so far outside, is because he wants to start around guys that he can beat for sure out of the first 5 feet. So that way he has a good entrance into the corner. And it doesn't always work for him, but I think that's what he tries to do. But yeah, those are my 2 for sure.
Okay, fair enough. Before I move on and tell you mine, I actually wanted to go back to Justin Cooper for a second, because it brings up a topic that Lewis and I discussed, I believe on the last show we did. I feel like AP and J Coop really are not getting enough credit for what they've done over the last year and a half or so on a 450, because I would agree with you. I don't think many people expected Justin Cooper to be where he's at and doing it as consistently as he's doing. But if you go back to outdoors last year, at least towards the end, he was getting to this point. He finished his 3rd in Supercross this year. Aaron Plessinger wins the Supercross. AP was 3rd in outdoors last year. Don't you kind of feel like, not that this should be expected, but they've been closer than really they've been getting credit for all this time?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I mean is, in Supercross, yes, I would expect Justin Cooper to be right there, kind of run that pace. But on outdoors, man, like, on a 250, he was a guy sometimes, but he wasn't always the guy. And right now he is running with the guys. Like, he is proving that he has the speed to be up and around those guys, which is really cool. So yeah, that's kind of my point. AP, I expected out of him, right? I think Aaron's just a guy that I kind of expected out of. So it's not as much of a surprise in my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point about both of them. For my 2 picks, 1 in each class, like you just did, I'm gonna go RJ Hampshire in 450s, and not because I didn't think RJ had this speed in him, but I did not think he would come off of this wrist surgery that he had, whatever it was, 10, 11 days before the opening round, and he said that he didn't even know if he was going to race the first round or how long it would last or anything like that, and he's been so fast, and now it's become consistently fast to the point where he's basically the 6th guy on the track every week and getting seemingly closer to that top 5 group. And I just think that's really impressive, because he's beating a lot of guys that I think better of themselves generally. Like they think they should be beating a rookie, so to speak, in the 450 class, and RJ slotted in really well into that position. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. In the 250 class, though, I want to give some props to Casey Cochran, because he's fighting for his life for a ride right now. And, the starts that he had at Hangtown were great. He ran up there for a while, but it wasn't just that. It's now turned into him stabilizing into being a solid top 10 guy in the last few weeks. And even this week, I think he had a 6th in the second moto. So like, he is, I think, doing the job that is really expected from that gas program in the first place. He's beating Ryder D kind of handily, his teammate, who it sounds like is locked up there for next year anyway. And I'm just impressed that coming off the injury, and I know that he had another hiccup again after coming back on the bike from the leg injury that he had before Supercross. He crashed again after getting back on the bike and still wasn't 100% rolling into outdoors. And now he's kind of just a guy in the mix that you don't really think about until you look at the results sheets. So kudos to him, in my opinion.
I think that's exactly it, is I don't think about him. Because you brought him up and I was like, dang, that's a good one. but I just so often like him and Ryder D, in my opinion, are just basically the same person. They always hurt, and they kind of came in. What was Casey a year earlier, or did they come in at the same time? Either way, but
I think Ryder D was actually a year before Casey, or half a year before Casey.
either way, and they kind of, I feel like I've had very similar careers. Nothing super crazy jumps off the results sheet, in my opinion. Except, didn't Casey like crush Hangtown last year? He like qualified fastest or something.
Yeah, he did.
Uh,
Yep.
so that's cool. And if you're exactly right. Like he has ran around that fifth spot a whole bunch. He's been 5 to 10 in quite a few motos this year. So that's really cool. But yeah, exactly what you said is I just forget about him. I don't think about him. I don't mean that as an insult because I don't even really know the guy, but he's not a guy that I'm like, oh, I wonder how Casey's going to do this weekend if he gets a start or if he does this. Cause I don't think he's a guy who can win right now. And I think the 250 class is just so deep. There's so many guys that, you forget about. And another person I could have named is Moseman, right? Like he's been next level, kind of the same as Marchbanks, like getting bad starts and moving forward super fit wise, except it seems like Moseman has had multiple motos where he crashes. But, he's another guy, in my opinion, that's kind of been crushing it under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, he falls in that group that even in 450 Supercross we talk about all the time. Like you're in that 6 to 10 range, you don't even notice those guys half the time because they get in through out of the heat in like 4th place and then run 8th all night and you never see him on TV. Another guy that's kind of doing that right now in the 450 class is Joey Savacci. Like he just finished 6th this past weekend. He's 9th in points. Never see him on TV. Like you hardly ever talk about him, but he's putting in a pretty solid season. Like it's kind of weird how that works in our sport where you don't hear much about that weird mid-range. Like I almost feel like I hear more about like your guys' group, which is the guys that are fringe trying to get into points and all that. But then the dudes like Joey or Casey in this case in the 250 class, no one talks about them.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And that's what it sucks for those guys, but it's good for guys kind of like me because it raises my value a little bit because like, yeah, being that 8th, 9th place guy in a 250 heat race or being a guy right on the bubble in a 450 LCQ, like we get a lot of TV time and we get talked about and it's cool to make mains and miss mains. And, like it creates that controversy where when you're getting 5th in every heat race and you're riding around in 12th, you don't get seen. The camera doesn't go back that far. And so, yeah, I mean, yes, I would love to be Joey and make every main event and make as much money as he does. But in the same sense, like I probably get more TV time than he does. And that's just part of it.
Making the sponsors happy too.
I try to, just keep getting the clicks as much as I can. But yeah, exactly like you said. I mean, I was actually using Joey in a conversation the other day. I was like, would you rather me be a guy that gets second in LCQs every week, or would you rather me be the guy who gets 15th or 12th to 15th every weekend and you never ever see him?
Mm-hmm. The Benny Blosses of the world, unfortunately.
The Bennies of the world, and the Mitchell Oldenburgs.
Yep, the whole beta team.
I'll take those contracts any day.
You would. All right, let's give a shout out to Leatt real quick. Leatt Protection is in our brand DNA, and it started 20 years ago with the groundbreaking Leatt neck brace and continues today with an extensive product offering of protective gear and riding apparel. But what Leatt really stands for is inspiring confidence and ensuring safety with every ride. And I don't think many people expected that Leatt's Benoit Paturel would be catching and passing Jorge Prado in the first moto this weekend, but it is the reality in which we live currently. And that is actually leading into my second topic of the day. Let's talk about Jorge Prado. We're not going to do Prado pod. I don't want to deep dive this too much, but I did want to get a perspective from someone who's done a lot in this sport, and you've changed brands in this sport as well. So you've kind of maybe had a bit more perspective on this. Prado isn't just coming from Europe and isn't just, learning Supercross and isn't just learning these tracks and all that. He's also riding a bike and a frame and all of this stuff that he's never experienced in his life. And so from your perspective, just take us through how difficult that process is of trying to not only learn a new bike, but then learn how to race it at this speed and feel comfortable over, an hour of racing a day.
it depends on the person. And you got to remember, he has spent his whole career on, an Austrian brand bike. I don't think I've ever seen him ride anything else. I remember in like 2015, I was in California and he was out there riding a Troy Lee 250, just learning to ride Supercross. It's not an easy process. I honestly think for a lesser advanced rider, it's easier to switch brands because you don't notice all the little nuances and stuff like that. But for someone, say like an Eli Tomac or a Chase Sexton or a Jorge Prado, like they notice every little detail, because that's what makes them great is they have such a good feel for what their bike is doing. And if your bike does one thing differently, it might change your reaction time. You might react one way, but the bike actually wants you to react a certain way. So yeah, I can understand why he is a little bit further off. I don't think he's as far off though as everyone thinks he is. Because I mean, look, if you're 30 seconds behind Jet at the end of a moto, that's 2 seconds a lap. And if he's say 10% off, right? If he picked it up 10% over the next couple weeks, got some more testing in, got a little bit more comfort. I don't know how much he rode before the season. He can close that 2 seconds a lap down to maybe a half a second in relatively no time. Like it just takes a couple good days of like, dang, that finally clicked. Dang, that finally clicked. And all of a sudden you're right back in it. Now, can he do it? I have no idea. Will he do it? I have no idea. I noticed he looked much more aggressive on the starts this weekend when I rewatched the race. He was trying to get to the front. But I also don't know if he knows what it's like to ride in the back and kind of get your teeth kicked in and get roosted like this. The other thing is he might not be the guy that just shows up and learns a track super fast. So like before, he would have a whole weekend to learn a track before the motos that actually mattered, where now he gets 2 practices. Like, I mean, you got to think the last 2 weekends, he's been 35th to 45th after the first practice.
Mm-hmm.
If it was one practice, he wouldn't make the motos.
Yeah.
That's not good. Like that shows that he's not getting there and learning the track fast enough and doing these things. So it could be an adjustment period. I haven't seen a lot of fitness from him. Like he's gotten past late in the motos. So maybe he's just super far behind on training and stuff like that because he started riding late. Like I said, I don't know when he started riding, but if he started riding, a couple weeks before the season, yeah, I could totally get why he's not, prepared, because when he got on the Cowie originally, he probably went straight to Supercross and was testing and doing all this stuff. And then he got hurt. Well, if he got hurt, then didn't get to ride and then only got to ride for 2 or 3 weeks before the season started, this all makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting study for sure because so many people had high expectations for him, and it's about gone maybe as poorly as you could say it would have gone in most people's eyes. From what we don't know much about this situation because he's remaining tight-lipped. And I even heard this weekend that someone tried to interview him, and his dad and the team were like, no. And they don't want him talking anymore because they don't want him either saying things negatively about the bike, or we just don't want to start drama about what he is feeling or not. And I saw him specifically in the first moto this weekend. He was running 6th, and then he fell way off the pace 15 minutes in, and I saw him a couple times taking his hands off the bars, and it didn't look like arm pump reaction, but it could be something like that. But what I want to know from your perspective is if you add all these factors together, like you said, he maybe isn't learning the track as fast, and he comes in out of quali 1, he's 36, he has to go out there and run a hot lap in quali 2, he's maybe still not comfortable with the track. If he is uncomfortable with the bike, even if it's little minute things, but you start adding all these things together, how quickly can your own mentality spiral if you're in a position like this?
Quickly. It can quickly go very downhill, but it can quickly go in the other direction too. And that's what I mean. It just takes one good day, one good test session of oh, dang, that actually worked. That made a big difference. So maybe that's just what they're waiting on. And I mean, it can go quickly. It just takes a few bad results. I mean, dude, he's used to being the fastest qualifier by a lot. He's used to whole shotting and just doing what Jet is doing and, you know, controlling races from the front and holding people off and doing all these things where you can't do that when you're riding around in six. Like you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And if you get passed by one guy, there's another guy right behind him. So like that's the problem with US Moto.
Well, I mean, like legitimately this weekend, I could tell when he was struggling in the first moto with whatever it was, whether it was something on the bike or himself. When Pat Terrell was closing on him, you could tell that he was like, of all the people I'm going to let pass me, I'm not going to let this guy that I normally lap in Europe come up and pass me. And like he even started to wick it up again. So, I mean, I think he's trying. Like, I don't think he doesn't care or anything like that, but it must just be a mental, battle of the ages really to be in that position where there's so much pressure and expectations put on him. And it's not even that he's under delivering, like he's just not even on the radar anymore, which is kind of crazy to think for someone of his magnitude. And I'm sure it is pissing him off to no end. But like you said, one good day could turn the whole thing around, and Southwick would be a great place to do it. I mean, he's not the most prolific sand rider, but he's a GP guy, and they're going to be a little bit more on it than most of the stateside guys. So could be.
Do you know when he started riding?
Like coming off the injury?
Yeah.
So I think he got back on the bike late March ish, and then I definitely saw him doing motos at Paula like early April.
Okay, so he had a month and a half at least on the bike before the first race.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's definitely enough time for someone like, it's not like he couldn't cycle. It's not like he couldn't do anything while he was hurt. So you would think, after a month on the bike, like you can do 30s relatively good. But I mean, like I said, it is a drastically different chassis feel than what he's ridden his whole life. So it could just take him some time, right? And it's hard to sit here and judge him because I know what it feels like to be lost like that. So it's just hard being another rider and sitting here and like not hating on him, but judging him because, I don't know all the details.
No, I mean, we really all kind of don't. And I don't think we ever will because I know they like to keep it pretty tight lip. But
I know you guys up in your press box like to just sit up there and point fingers at how bad we all are. That guy sucks. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what it must feel like from his perspective. And if he's not going to answer the question, then I know that, you guys, like you've lived some things too. So at least you can tell us what you've.
If I could get paid what he's getting paid to ride around and get those results, I'd be okay with it.
Something tells me he's not quite okay with it, to be fair, though.
That's fair.
All right, let's tell you guys about Racetech. For 40 years, Racetech has been supplying the motorcycle industry with high-quality suspension components made right here in the USA. For modern to vintage, Racetech is your go-to source for suspension performance and engine performance. Quietly, Racetech tunes a lot of engines in the pits these days and have been helping out a lot of privateer teams and even sneakily a couple factory teams on getting some stuff ready to go for the races. So we thank Racetech for their continued support here of the LVK show. All right, my last topic that I'm going to pitch to you, Mr. Cade Clason, is we already kind of talked about a couple of these gentlemen, but let's bring a full circle in this 250 class. So Garrett Marchbanks is riding amazingly. He's tied for third in the championship. It's essentially third in the championship because Chance Hymas is probably done. Casey Cochran, who I mentioned, kind of my sleeper underrated guy, and Michael Moseman, who you brought up, another underrated guy this year, have all been riding pretty well, but none of them have for sure lockdown deals for 2026 just yet. So not sure what or what's going on behind the scenes or anything along those lines, but if you had to predict or get a guess out there on where any of these guys might end up, do you have some thoughts?
I think Garrett ends up at either Star or back at Pro Circuit, because I think with the raw speed that he's showing, that's something Bobby would easily be like, I want that snatch. But like, if Garrett goes out and gets a few more podiums and maybe even, battles for a win or something like that, like there's no way Mitch can let him go, right? Like he has come through the pack. He's fighting for his life. He's battling with race winning guys. Figure out how to get the guy off the gate and keep him there. That's a big one for me, especially because he's the only one left in California too, I think. Maybe McAdoo. But how do you, I love McAdoo, but like, how do you keep McAdoo but get rid of Garrett? Garrett's there fighting for it, and all McAdoo's done the last 3 years is get hurt. Like that doesn't truly make sense to me. Now I get McAdoo's a great guy and Mitch likes him because he's won races and stuff. Whatever. I'm not trying to get rid of McAdoo. I'm just stating how can you get rid of one guy and not keep the other? Casey, that's a weird one. Again, because I don't really pay attention to him. I think he's someone who could end up at like a Triumph or hell, maybe even be my teammate. I know Julian's trying to find, like, that's something Julian likes to do is try to find guys that are struggling to try and kind of give them their second chance, because Casey doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's like, hey, I'm going to go privateer it if I don't get a ride, and like I said, I don't know him, so that could not be true. But yeah, I think guys like that are going to end up, if they don't get factory deals, they're going to end up on a PRMX or club or maybe even like a solitaire or something like that, just to go out there and try to put in a good Supercross series and try to show that they can still go fast.
Mm-hmm. What about Mosiman?
Dude, you got to give it up to Star for Mosiman, right? Because if it wasn't for Star, he's probably done, right? No other team probably risks that and takes that risk and just gives the guy a shot. I mean, that's just what Star does, apparently. They just sign everybody, and then if it works out, it works out. And he's been second best to Hayden outdoors, right? Is there anybody else on Star that's been better than him?
I mean, Thrasher this weekend, but that was the first sign of life we've seen him from Thrasher pretty much all the years. So yeah,
but only in the second moto. The first moto, he beat Thrasher. He came from the back and passed him.
I just mean in general, like Thrasher hasn't been existent, whereas Mosiman's been hovering inside of the top 10 pretty much all season. So.
I think it's weird that basically that whole team is non-existent except for Hayden at this point. Like who, Manier, whatever. Mosiman was.
I mean, it would look way different if Cole Davies was out here.
You think so? I mean, I've heard that he's not very good at outdoors, so that's true.
No, but I don't think that. I think he would slot in like maybe the backside of the top 10, but I don't think he would be struggling as much as Thrasher the way that he was riding in Supercross. I think it would have carried a lot of confidence and momentum.
Do we know when Max comes back?
No, because he just got surgery. So
again, oh wow, I didn't know that.
Well, so the leg thing happened.
Yeah.
At Birmingham, and the doc told him not to have surgery. So he just kept trying to get it healed, and eventually rode on it. And after nothing changed on it for 2 months, they said, "Oh yeah, you should have gotten surgery." So now he had surgery right before Paula, and I think it's going to be another 2 months. So. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that if Max is there, Cole's there, Pierce Brown is out there, it looks a little bit different than Deegan and Large Gap. But Mosiman has done the job, I feel like, for that program to at least put another one of their bikes at least in the mix. He was running fourth at Hangtown for a long time until he crashed late. And even this past weekend, like, he was mixing it up with Shimoda and who else was, Masterpool right there at the top, inside of the top 10, all the entire first moto. So.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I get where you're at, but yeah, I don't know about Mosiman. I mean, I think he's still kind of a question mark to a lot of teams, and I think if he stays there, that's probably the best fit for him. But same thing, if he's willing to take a pretty massive pay cut and bonus cut and all this stuff to just race because he knows he can go out there and do good, then he'll probably end up on a satellite team. But I don't see another team other than Star taking a guy like that right now.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's say Garrett does sign back at PC, because to me, from what I've heard, that sounds fairly likely. At least they're working on it to make it happen. So if you have Cochran and Mosiman, we haven't seen Cochran once in Supercross. He keeps getting hurt before it. And then Mosiman, I mean, was pretty good in Supercross at times this year, but also crashed a lot. If you remove all factory eligible options and you roll out, let's just say for the sake of possibilities, Club, Phoenix, AEO, like those types of teams, what is the best fit for both of those guys, like given those options?
Yeah. I don't know, man. It depends. Maybe Cochran to AEO so he can stay on the same brand and he can pull some of that relationship that he has from KTM straight over there. Um, I mean, the Austrian group, right? That way he stays on something familiar. He can get a setting for suspension wise that he's familiar with. Yeah, his bike probably won't be as fast, but that's kind of the easier one to work with. For Moseman, probably I would say club. That'd be probably a good fit for him. Somewhere that's easy to set up. It's like a good group of guys that's not gonna be too hard on him, I guess, because I don't think, which is odd because he's at probably the team that's hard on him the most, now that I think about it. But yeah, I would probably say that. It's hard because I know a lot of riders that don't want to ride for Phoenix, even though they're programmed. Like I think they have a good bike and stuff like that, but I know a lot of guys
Yeah.
that don't want to ride for them.
Yeah,
So
just the way that things have gone in the past with other riders they know and stuff.
yeah,
I get it.
exactly. So
But okay, so like in terms of structure, do you think that Moseman needs that structure and Cochran maybe doesn't? Because AEO isn't like a club where they have like a group of guys all get together and we ride every day and that kind of thing. It's more of like take a bike and go practice. Like, is that suitable for a guy like Cochran at this point in time of his career too?
I mean, I don't know. I guess because yeah, I mean, to do that, you have to. I mean, all those guys hire a trainer and they go to the track with the trainer. It's different than. I mean, anytime like when I'm in California, the AAO guys are at the track with a mechanic. It's not like they're
Yeah.
picking their bike up and going by themselves.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, right now he's at Baker's.
Yeah,
Cochran is. It's off to the side, but like he's under some sort of program. And just thinking back to like other kids of that age, is it okay when you're
I
this
mean,
young and inexperienced to like kind of do your own thing? You know what I mean?
it depends on what kind of person he is because sometimes that works out way better for them. You give them a little bit of freedom, they have a little bit more fun. They show up to the race and they have more fun and they feel more free and they ride more free. Where other guys get that freedom and they just let loose and then all of a sudden they totally suck.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fair.
I think it goes both ways. And you never know what's going to happen, but I think that's part of their choice as a rider. Like you have to, if you want something structured like that, maybe he gets paid significantly less to go to the more like club. But he has, he gets to live at the track, he gets the facility, he gets all these things. Whereas if he goes to AEO, like maybe he can, because he's such a higher name, maybe that he can get them to pay him more, but he has to be more responsible and be more on top of all these other things as part of his program.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good perspective of it for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Good job, Cade.
Trying to bring that rider perspective.
Trying to bring it. I love it. All right. My part of the show is done. I want to thank Namura real quick. Namura Technologies has been a trusted name in performance engine components for motocross, ATV, UTV, and personal watercraft for over 20 years. From complete rebuilds to high performance upgrades, Namura delivers precision engineered parts built to perform under pressure. Their expanding lineup includes cast and forged pistons, connecting rods, gasket kits, engine valves, and now cylinder kits, all designed to meet or exceed OEM specifications. Find full product details and application coverage at Namura.com, and they're also a proud official sponsor of the 2025 Pro Motocross Championship. And we thank Namura for coming on the show. All right, second half of the show is brought to you by Partzilla because we have the PRMX Partzilla Blaster Power Race Team guy here today. It's Cade Clason. So you got three topics.
I got three.
What are they going to be here for us?
Okay. I don't know which one to do first. I'm going to do the dirt. I'm going to go dirt first because it's been pet peeve in me ever since last week's Pulp Show when who called in for High Point to talk to Steve. Can't think of what his name is. Tim Cotter.
Ryder? Oh
yeah, it's Tim Cotter. And he's like, yeah, we got the whole track covered in sawdust right now. And I'm just like, why? I don't understand why all these tracks every single year haul in all the sand, haul in all this sawdust, haul in all this mulch to just get the track to hold more moisture. I think the coolest part about our sport is that every single week we go somewhere that's totally different, and we have to adapt and try all these different things to be able to get our motorcycles to work, to be able to get our style of riding to fit that track. Where like I feel like High Point and Thunder Valley are basically the same thing at this point. One is at elevation, one isn't, but they're literally just the same thing. It's just we're gonna rip it super deep and we're gonna get these huge ruts that just lock you in all the time. Where I feel like High Point could be like that track on the circuit that's like that cool old school hard pack track. But for some reason they just don't want that. They don't want like hard pack to show up. And I kind of miss that stuff. Like I miss, going to Southwick and then the next week you're riding Blue Groove somewhere. I think that possibly the teams creating this or like creating this backlash, like, oh, I don't want to race on this crappy dirt, and then they complain and they're like, oh, next year we just haul in all this sand and we just rip it in super deep and then it holds all this moisture. And I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think it's cool to see drastically different things. Like, what do you think?
No, I agree with you 100%. Like, I wish that we had way more variation in soil types from track to track. And it's starting to feel like, aside from maybe Fox Raceway and Hangtown and Southwick, all the dirt looks the same or forms up the same. Like, I'm not riding it, so I can just only see visually what it looks like, but it looks that way to me. Just to play devil's advocate to High Point specifically, as you said, putting sawdust and this types of stuff in the dirt helps it hold moisture better. And High Point's one of the few rounds where like every other year it rains to some degree, whether Friday or some portion of Saturday. Could they maybe just be doing that, again, to play devil's advocate, to help out with that process of, if it rains, we can get the track back to some rideable level quicker?
That's the opposite though, because they're putting the sawdust in to make it softer. So it's going to hold more moisture with the sawdust in it. Where like if they left it hard, like this weekend, the sections that were hard pack, if after it was done raining, they went and took the ripper over it, it would have been so sick because it was just hard pack. So no, I think the exact opposite, right?
I don't know how they,
I think what they're doing is they're trying to get it to hold more moisture if it doesn't rain, so that it gets super ruddy, so that way it gets super rough and all this stuff.
Do you think from just, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think hard pack tracks get rough and gnarly in their own way. And I don't think you have to have these super big ruts and these super massive braking bumps for it to be super gnarly. As a track gets super choppy, you have to move around and you have to play with the exit of corners. And yeah, as braking bumps get bigger, yeah, you have to move at the entrance. But when the ruts are so big and you can't move at the exit, that takes that aspect away. So I don't know. It's just, in my opinion, I think it would have been sick to just see a track get super hard and super blue groove. Like the face of the quad, if the whole track was like that, some ruts, some hard pack, like I'd be sick. Just something totally different and see kind of what we get out of it. I'm cool with a little bit of dust. I'm cool with a little bit of hard pack. Like that downhill roller section this weekend was so awful. It was like they just took a sawmill's worth of sawdust, sprinkled it all over it, and then just soaked it and then left it. And I'm not about it. That section could be so sick if it was just, I think in that section, they put it in there to help slow it down a little bit. But still, like you go back to like, was it 2010 when Izzy and or what year was it that like Nico and Stroop like were like 1-2? Was it Nico and Stroop? It was Nico and somebody.
Must have been like 09 or something like that.
They were on 1110 bikes.
You're talking about Durham and Izzy.
Oh yeah, Durham and Izzy. Yeah,
that was 2011, I believe.
Oh okay, yeah, and they whole shot. Like track looked so fast and sick that year.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I hate the lack of variance, and I've heard from more riders than just you that there's too much sawdust on the tracks these days, and it's kind of ruining the track. And that downhill roller section, to your point, several riders said it was sketchy this weekend. Like even really good dudes thought it was too much. And you go back to, I watched High Point 2015 with Kenny Roxon and Ryan Dungey battling there, and it was sick because like they could square off that corner after the Carmichael double and pretty easily double down the hill all the way.
Mhm.
And like it looked fun and flowy and not too fast. Like you said, they're trying to maybe slow it down. Like it didn't look like it was too fast to do it. So it doesn't make sense to me why everybody wants to be like Redbud. You should want to be your own thing and want to make your own unique perspective of a racetrack instead of the 14th different Redbud we've seen in the nation.
So yeah, we were basically talking about how every track is trying to be like Redbud, and and you said it perfectly. It's just I want every track to be unique, and I want to like think about, oh, okay, next week we're going here. It's kind of like how MotoGP and Formula One are. They have that, oh, this track is unique for this reason, so this car might be better here, or this person might be better here. I think that's something that is unique, and I wish our sport could do. Um, I think we have it a little bit with Southwick and stuff like that. I think last year was super cool because we knew Deegan going in wasn't good in those types of conditions, and he went to work. He practiced sand. They rented the track out after an NESC race so he could practice it rough, and he got better at it. He worked on it. He worked hard, and made it work for him. And I just think the same can be said about hard pack tracks. I think Euros get a lot of credit for being really good at riding sand, but I think it's underrated how good they are at really, really hard pack tracks. Like, because Americans were kind of spoiled. We tend to have pretty good tracks all around the country with pretty good dirt. Dating back to like Hard Rock was the last time I raced like a true hard pack track, or when I lived in Tucson and rode the local track right there in town. Like it was hard as a rock. Um, it's just that besides that, like everywhere else is just trying to be this super loamy dirt. And I don't know. I just wish some years I wish they'd leave High Point hard pack, and then maybe every 3 years they bring in sawdust and rip it and get it super deep and rutted like that. But Thunder Valley is going to be that way. So it's like, why is High Point trying to be the same as Thunder Valley, in my opinion?
They just all want chocolate cake, man. That's what they're all chasing. Redwood, like I said, and I don't think it's necessary. I think it'd be way cooler to have multiple characteristics, like you said. All right, let's get into your second topic. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Partzilla. Partzilla.com is the premier OEM parts dealer and distributor. They sell OEM parts for Honda, Kawasaki, Polaris, Can-Am, Suzuki, Arctic Cat, Sea-Doo, Ski-Doo, and Yamaha motorcycles, ATVs, PWCs, and snowmobiles. Visit Partzilla.com to see their extensive line of parts and accessories. And you can also visit the PRMX race team and say hi to Cade every weekend.
You could. We didn't do a team update. Were we supposed to do a team update?
I mean, we can. It's you had a tough weekend. Mitchell had a good weekend. Jack did not have a good weekend.
Hey, you know what we did decide though is that my first weekend was better than Mitchell's first weekend.
Yeah, I mean that's dead on.
Yeah, it is. So progress. I'm just gonna keep chugging away, and when Redbud and Millville show up, I'm gonna be ready to go.
Yeah, but not a good weekend for Jack. Not. It's just we're struggling.
Okay. I'm going to defend Jack here because yes, he sucked in qualifying. I don't understand what his problem is. The kid goes so ungodly fast at his house. I think that's part of the problem, but whatever. It's not for me to decide. But he is crazy fast. But then in the LCQ, he got a good start, put himself in a good position. He was in second. Did you see the video of Chase Yenser? I watched it live. So funny story about this. Yenser cleans him out, right? And I'm watching it with my teammates on the side of the hill at High Point in front of all these people. I am 95% of the way through my protein shake. And as he gets cleaned out, I go, oh shit. And I go like that with my hand, and my protein shake flies up and lands on my head in front of all these people. So I yell and do that. And Mitchell's standing next to me, looks, sees the crash, goes, oh man, and then turns around and I'm covered in my protein shake smoothie. And he's just like befuddled at what happened over the last 10 seconds.
You got put in the wall.
I got put in the wall, yeah. So I felt bad for Jack. Hunter had a rough weekend too. He lost a motor, first moto. But yeah, that's team update from High Point.
That
struggle
wall
bus. But
doesn't. Speaking of tracks, though, that wall shouldn't be there. That's a stupid place for that wall.
man, I don't care. I think it's cool. It's unique. Everyone kind of knows it as the, that whatever plywood corner or something. It's kind of cool, historic, nostalgic.
Okay, that's fine, but move it 10 feet off the track so it's like in the background of photos, but then there's still just a regular corner there.
No, that's the whole point of it. There is to like make it a berm. That's what it's there for. It's kind of
You
sick.
get that where someone cleans out and you go head first into it.
Yeah, but that's because Chase Yenso's an idiot. Like that was his fault. He just blatantly tried to clean him out. He was crashing no matter what. He did it on purpose. He's just an idiot.
Yeah. I don't like it, man. Take the wall out.
I don't know. The wall's whatever. I don't care about the wall. I thought it was kind of cool. It reminds you of the corners there.
It does. Jack Chambers will never forget that corner exists. He'll know that one for the rest of his life.
Exactly. All right. You ready for my next one?
I'm ready.
All right. I think that when it comes to this question for the 250 class, it's a little bit easier because only two guys have won. But in both classes, who wins a moto and who wins an overall that hasn't won yet?
Okay. So both classes, I'll start off with 450s. I still believe that pretty much that entire top 5 breakaway group, I think they each win a moto at some point. I genuinely do. I don't know if that's
Jet. So you have Jet and Eli who have already won. So you're thinking Justin Cooper, AP Hunter.
Yep. And Chase when he comes back. That'll be 6 moto winners. I think it'll, at some point, Jet's got a big enough lead. He's not worried about winning out or whatever. Those guys get better starts like we saw this weekend. He doesn't go balls out to win the race, and they start winning some motos near the end. In terms of overalls, though, I really think it's like maybe Hunter picks up one and Chase picks up one when he comes back, but that's it. I think it's Jet, Eli, and maybe one of those guys get an overall, but I don't think that they're good enough to beat Jet and or Eli twice, basically, to get ahead of them on the box.
Yeah. I think for the 450 class, I think Chase can win an overall. Eli can win an overall. That's it. But I was going to say the same thing as you. I think any one of those guys could get a start and get I think they only have to get lucky with one guy, and that's Jet, right? I think if any one of them starts in front of Jet and Jet has a mistake, whoever is at the front of the pack can win. But I think they all have, any of them, they're not going to start behind him and beat him. So they've got to start in front of him, hope for a mistake, hope for something. I truly don't think that J. Coop or Aaron can beat him straight up right now. Hunter, I think, could beat him straight up in the right circumstances in a moto. Eli has already proven he can beat him straight up in a moto. But yeah, think about all the things that have to go right for them to beat him straight up. They're not, they're doing everything they can, and he's cruising and going the same speed as them.
Right? Yeah, I agree. I just don't think you're going to have 7 more weeks or 7 more races or whatever, especially when Chase comes back, where Jet starts in front of all those guys every single time. I think he's just going to have, let's say, 3 motos. They get 3 opportunities, 3, bullets, if you will, where Jet starts 8th, and that's their chance. You got to run right then and there. But
8's not good enough.
But if Chase is there and he has to go through Eli and Chase and AP and Hunter to get to J. Coop or something like that, I think that's a different story than just getting through one of them. So that's why I say 8th or 9th, but you're right. I mean, he's still figured out a way to win from those positions more often than not. So,
I mean, the hard part was after halfway, he was behind Aaron this weekend and Hunter and got both of them within 5 laps of each other. That's the crazy part to me.
I think Aaron got tight or something. I don't know.
He went backwards fast.
Yeah. So I think the AP that we saw at Hangtown doesn't get caught that way by Jet, like maybe at the end of the moto, but not blows by him with still 7 minutes on the clock kind of thing. So, but yeah, so let's talk 250s then. Flip over there. I mean, Deegs is looking really good. The only guy that's beat him for an overall now is Hymas, who looks like he's going to be out.
He's the only guy who's beat him in a moto.
Yeah, you're right.
Deegs
So
has
the
won
only
every
guy that's
moto
beat him at
except
all,
then.
the
Yeah.
only guy that's beat him at all is now out. But I don't know. I still think that similar to the Jet thing, you're going to have a couple motos where Deegan doesn't either start up there or something like that, and those guys get away. I mean, look, we saw it last year. There was, Masterpool got away in some motos. Obviously, Hymas did too. Kitchen had his days. So I think they just need to start ahead of him and Deegan be mid-ish pack. And then we see some stuff go on there, but I don't think it's going to be anyone other than probably maybe Tom, but Levi and Joe are my two picks that could beat him right now. And I don't know that I really have anybody else that jumps off the page. What about you?
I was going to go Levi. He's number one. I think he's only going to keep getting better. His raw speed, I know he can get starts. He hasn't gotten good starts, but he can, and I think that's important. But then he also has fitness and the ability to go through guys that you don't always see. You never really see Tom come from the back. Tom has to whole shot, I feel like, to win. So to put the odds of him whole shotting and being the fastest guy on the same day is unlikely, in my opinion. So the only two guys I can truly see right now beating him straight up in a moto is Joe and Levi. And the only guy that I think can win an overall is Levi.
I think I would agree with that. That's a fair take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me because Joe hasn't really been putting it together. The crazy thing about Joe is all of a sudden the switch flips and he's crazy fast. Like, where's Joe from Fox Raceway? Right? Like, Joe at Fox Raceway was unreal. Where's that guy been the last 2 weeks?
I would like to say starts because they haven't been the same, but he walked through people at Fox, so I don't know.
Exactly. He started in the back, or not in the back, but like outside, I'd say the top 10 at Fox Raceway, and he got second both motos. He followed Deegan all the way through just with raw speed and like cool style. And right now he just looks stiff and tight and not like playful at all. So, but that's just Joe, in my opinion. The switch flips and all of a sudden he's a different guy.
Yeah. Let me ask you about Deegan and motivation because I feel like he was more pissed off than I thought he would be about Hymas beating him at Thunder Valley. Like, I know that, he was really mad about the whole bike drama and whatever, but in general, it seemed like he, I don't know, maybe kind of envisioned that he could go perfect or wanted to go perfect and, at least try to make that last as long as possible. Do you think for him, like, he still holds that sentiment? Like, he wants to go out and beat down these guys every weekend and it's not just about winning the championship?
It's definitely the lone. I think the crazy thing about Hayden is he needs something to lock onto to have motivation. It's kind of like you hear James when he says, it's really hard to ride away from someone when you're in front of them, but it's way easier to catch somebody when you're behind them because you can see them, you have that motivation, you have that carrot to chase. So he does a good job of finding something that motivates him. So yeah, I think it could be something that he's striving for to win all these overalls, to try and just demoralize these guys and prove that he's going to show up in the 450 class next year and be able to compete with Jet and those guys. And that's something I think that's really cool. You see what RJ's doing right now. Like, yeah, he's sixth place guy, but we're impressed with a sixth place guy. Like, if Hayden can continue this and get on a 450, and with his fitness and his strength, like, I don't think riding a 450 is going to be a problem. He's going to be right there. It always, riding a 450 is different than riding a 250F. I think you see that a lot with guys, but I think he's wanting to prove to the guys in the 450 class even that, hey, when I show up, you're going to be worried about me.
So then let me flip this at the end of this conversation to the other side of it. Likelihood, if you had to give it like a percentage chance of how likely it's going to happen, both classes, Deegan sweeps out, Jet sweeps out, percentage that it happens.
I would say there is a 50% chance that I think it's 50% chance that Hayden sweeps out, and I think there's a 50% chance that Jet sweeps out.
Okay. So
it's just there's so many things that can go wrong to lose an overall. You know, you get a flat, your pipe falls off, anything, anything can happen. And it's just, like this weekend, I went through the wrong rut and it ripped my chain guide off, DNF. Like that can happen
Yeah.
to anybody at any point.
I'm just simply asking, you don't think it's more likely one or the other is in a better position to do it,
Oh,
basically?
no, I think they're both, I think they're both equally capable of doing it. I think they have the same odds of doing it. They both have other guys in their class that can win. So yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, what do you got for the last topic, buddy?
Are you ready?
Not really, but let's do it.
All right. I do not understand what is going on with Steve and Grant Langston. If you are unsure of what I'm talking about, you need to go to Grant Langston's Instagram page.
No,
and
he
click
deleted it.
Oh, he deleted it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wild. Okay. So I'll give some context then, since it's gone. But Grant Langston put up a post at Gypsy Tales, a screenshot of Gypsy Tales, basically calling Steve out for one, not going to the press conferences, which I understand. But two, Steve called out, was it Hopper? Johnny Hopper, for a question that he asked AP in the press conference. Didn't hate on Hopper. He just said he didn't like the question. That's fine. I say things all the time. I don't like something someone says. That's fine. We move on. Someone says that about me. That's fine. I said it. Whatever. I don't understand the actual true hatred for an individual. There were so many comments in there where they were absolutely just ripping Steve apart. And I feel bad for the guy because Steve is a good friend of mine and he's done a lot for me, but he's also done a ton for other people. And I struggle with the concept that other people can't grasp that, like you and I have differing opinions on probably a lot of things, Kellen,
Yeah.
but you and I can still be friends and see past those differences. Why can other people not do that?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like that whole thread bummed me out a lot reading through it. Not because of my, me feeling bad for Steve or whatever. It wasn't anything about that. It was just like, I'm kind of bummed that this is what our sport looks like from either a fan perspective or the things that Brian Deegan was saying or GL or even the things that Steve said. I don't know, man. Like, I would call Steve out and say that some of the things he was saying in that thread look stupid. Like, why must it go to the 10th degree all the time with stuff like this? It doesn't make sense why, first of all, people can't just actually talk to each other. Like Grant Langston has Steve's number, call him, or Brian Deegan sees Steve in the pits all the weekend. If he really wants to talk to him about it, then talk to him about it. Like, I don't understand why people can't do that. But then, yeah, like you said, everything has to be negative and hateful and going at people. And like, I get people going at me on Twitter because I said Jorge Prado qualified P1. And it's just because I fucking saw it. Like, I didn't say like he's the greatest athlete to ever walk the planet of the earth or anything like that. But I just don't understand why our sport has to be this way where fans, people within it, whatever, just have to immediately go to such a negative degree with it. It's sad.
Well, I don't even think it's just our sport. I think it's so often that people. I had this conversation with my brother one day. He was like, "Oh, I can't believe this person does this or says this," and I'm like, Reese, you have to realize that there are people on this planet that have drastically different lifestyles than you do, and they are brought up a different way, and they see things from a totally different perspective, and how certain things affect them, it's totally different. So yeah, they're going to have a different opinion than you, and you can tell them how you think and how it affects you, and they can tell you how it affects them and why they think this way, and you can go about your day having two totally different opinions on a subject and be just fine. But so many people are so set in their ways that it's like, oh, you don't think the same way I do, you're a piece of shit. And I hate that because I enjoy being friends with all these different people from all these different walks of life. And it drives me nuts when I just see people go at people like that.
Yeah, I mean, and like I that is a societal problem, but also, again, I'm just gonna say that our sport looks so bush league when we do this stuff. It really does. Like, I mean, what you watch NFL, right? Or what's a major sport you like to watch? NFL.
I like the NFL. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so NFL. Let's say, for example, Patrick Mahomes' dad just in the comments of someone's IG post saying like, Adam Schefter's the biggest piece of shit there is. He just tells lies all the time. He's fake news. Like, it would make Patrick Mahomes look really stupid. But instead, it's kind of...
To be fair, that does happen in the NBA, especially with like
Okay.
Stephen A. Smith.
Okay, but Stephen A. Smith, I feel like, is a little different. Yes, Steve has outlandish takes like Stephen A. at times, but Stephen A. isn't like getting scoops and real stories the way that Steve is in our sport. I would equate him more to that Shams Charania guy or whatever, where like he's actually kind of behind the scenes getting real information and putting it out to the public. That's what I would equate that to. And I don't see, again, and let's go NBA, I don't see Luka Doncic's dad going, fake news, Shams Charania or whatever his name is, at it again, telling lies about where my son's going to play basketball. No, it makes your son look bad and bush league as a sport. Like, I just don't understand why we resort to that level. It looks petty and dumb, and it's creating drama from a media standpoint that doesn't need to happen. Like, we should be talking about how great Hayden Deegan is as an athlete and what he's going to do in the 450 class, and not be talking about drama that's going on behind the scenes, in my opinion.
But part of what I mean is I think it's okay to criticize Hayden for things that he does. And I would sit here and say that Hayden is partially to blame. Like, Hayden doesn't take criticism well. And, if Steve called me today and was like, hey, I don't like what you said about me on the LVK show, I would say, okay, what did I say that you didn't like? And listen to him. And I could either tell him to kick rocks and I could do whatever I want and you're a piece of crap, or I could be like, okay, yeah, I can understand why you might think that. You know what I mean? But like, if someone says something negatively about Hayden, Hayden instantly resorts to jabbing back, and that's not a proper way to do it. And that's exactly what happened here. Is someone that has gotten criticism from, like, I've listened to all of Steve's shows, because I like listening to the inside of all the other things that are happening, but also because I value Steve's opinion and I like his shows. And Steve praises Hayden 75% of the time. But because he has said a few things negatively, Brian just hates Steve. And it's just ridiculous and it's stupid. And they take criticism like a 4-year-old child, like, grow up, get over it. So I don't know. I hate that. And it's annoying.
Well, I think what happens a lot in our sport that, bothers me from a media standpoint is there's a lot of times where, because I've been on the receiving end of this a couple times too, something I say, in a 30-second span gets either clipped or that thing is brought up in casual conversation by someone who didn't listen to it. And so it's completely out of context and it doesn't make any sense. I can't think of a specific example, but if, like, for example, I'm just criticizing someone about something they did on the racetrack, but it was after I said they did a lot of really cool stuff, but I didn't really like that block pass, then everyone, just assumes that all I'm saying is that guy's a piece of shit because of a bad block pass. I don't care, whatever. Yeah. But that's what happens. Like, you have people within these inner circles hear a fringe part of something and go to the person that's in that inner circle and say, this person said this about you, even though if it's a small, snippet of what it is. And then it just blows up into a whole thing where they didn't even get the full context or even listen to it, but they just assume that that's exactly what the reality was. And that's stupid. Like, you should be more, I don't know, better about actually clued into what's happening or what people are saying instead of just immediately going to the negative.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think it's the same thing that like happened to Joe Rogan at one point. They just took all these little clips from his shows and put him in context that he was a terrible person, when it's like, if you listen to the context of each one of those segments, it was completely out of it. So
yeah,
it's a hard part about your guys' job.
Yeah, it is. But it's just part of the job and I get it. But the fact that, even in this Steve versus Hopper thing, if that's what you want to call it, Steve was not the only one on that podcast that criticized Hopper. Weege and JT did too. They also said I didn't like the question, and that's the wrong person to ask. And you could arguably say JT was harder on Hopper, but Steve took the brunt of it. So
I don't think it was that. I don't think what started it is the Hopper thing. Well, I think that is what started it. It's what Gypsy calling Steve out for not going to.
I know, but again, Steve ends up taking the brunt of the Hopper thing.
Oh.
Hopper makes a video 30 minutes long about why the media is terrible, basically. And Steve is the one that takes the fall for it somehow, even though all three of them were criticizing. And so then Steve ends up being the poster child of why the media is wrong or whatever. And it's like, you didn't even listen.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't listen to that video. I don't know what video you're talking about.
Yeah, Hopper made a 30-minute video where he went in detail on what the media is doing wrong and why this question should be okay. And he used clips from the review pod where JT, Steve, and Weege are talking about Hopper's question. So
see, I feel bad because I still put Hopper and Cooksey in the same realm, and they're not anymore. Hopper is what seems to be a very well established media guy in the pits now, and I just haven't had the chance to have a conversation with him. But in my head, they're still the same person.
Yeah,
or not the same person, but the same style.
And I'll reiterate this again because if people didn't listen to the Blair show, I am on board with Hopper's question. I don't care. Ask that question every day of the week, man. That's fine. Like, I think you are stirring up a little bit of drama by doing it, but that's what our sport kind of needs, man. Like, it kind of needs the teams to be more transparent about where their athletes are going and why, and not get mad if someone does say something about where an athlete is going or why. And it simply was just a question to AP about whether or not he would be happy having Eli as a teammate. That's fine, man. That's fine. Like, it's not.
I wish
not carrying rocket science here.
I wish AP would have answered it differently and just be like, I don't give a crap who my teammate is. I don't know what's going on in that dude's life. Like, that would have been a next level answer.
I mean, I think AP answered the question great too. You know, like,
yeah,
whatever.
I think he did. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I mean, I could care less about the question. I don't listen to post-race interviews I don't listen to the TV post-race interviews because I think they're all generic. I think they ask dumb questions, and I'm not about it. I'd way rather listen to Steve and Lewis's post-race interviews because I feel like I get way more out of it, and I learn stuff about the racetrack. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm sorry.
Sad.
To
Don't
be
want to
honest,
listen to my post-race interviews. Sad.
you don't do them every single week though, and I have Lewis's and Steve's subscribed, so they pop up. So maybe when you start going to the races again, I'll start listening to yours.
This guy, I interviewed you this weekend. I went to the race.
I know, but it was the first race all outdoors you've gone to. You're on the same program as Cade.
I went to Paula too.
I was told you didn't work at Paula.
Yeah, well, Steve likes to be fake news, so
part of the problem here.
Bring it all the way back around.
Bring it all the way back around. All right, cool. Well, that's all I got.
That's all you got. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for tuning in again. Best wishes to Big Lou. We hope he gets well soon, and we'll have him back on the show soon. But we also hope he rests. We don't want him to rush back. Apparently, he still can't even really talk. So I think we can let him rest for a little while. But I very much appreciate you, Cade, for filling in, coming on the show, talking with us again. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Big shout out to Leatt, Racetech, Namura, Partzilla for backing the show. I think we'll be back next week. We may have another guest co-host next week as well, but we'll let you guys know again soon. But for now, we'll send you guys on your way. Enjoy an off weekend. No pro motocross this weekend. Southwick in 2 weeks' time, and we'll see you guys soon for more LVK More Than Moto.